Welcome to the EMEA Recruitment Podcast, proudly supporting Operation Smile, an international medical charity that provides life-changing surgery to children with cleft lip and palate. We're on a mission to create 100 new smiles through this partnership. If you can support us in any way, please visit emearecruitment.com/operation-smile. In this episode, we're joined by Pehr Magnus Karlsson, Head of Finance Transformation at EF Education First. He explains the importance of being able to simplify complexity in a leadership role.
So, hello everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the EMEA Recruitment Podcast in partnership with our good friends over at Operation Smile. As my colleague Rose has just mentioned, we're delighted to welcome Pehr onto the show today. So hopefully you can still hear and see me okay, Pehr.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm delighted to be here, Paul.
Delighted to have you as a guest today. We've got a good range of questions to go through, actually. Some have come from the network internally, some externally. So hopefully, some good questions to fire your way, but nothing too extreme, hopefully.
I hope not.
So I thought just to start off, in relation to the fact that the podcast is in partnership with Operation Smile, maybe as a way to ease you into the podcast, I thought I'd just ask you what the last thing was that made you smile, Pehr?
Well, Paul, you always make me smile. So, but hey, I'm not. All right, I'm going to be. I'm also going to answer the question. I did have a call right before this one, actually, with a small consulting company in the UK, and these guys who were tech guys, they'd really tried to understand some finance processes. It was just really great to watch them, demo their solution, talk it through. It just made me smile. Like, these guys know what they're talking about. They felt the pain, and they thought outside of their box, and that actually made me smile because it's just great to have that interaction. And I smiled again when I got to talk to you, Paul, as well.
That's so good. Hopefully that continues through the conversation. That's good news.
We'll see. Well, at least it started well.
Yeah. And I know, obviously, you've got a lot going on at the moment, which we'll be talking about a bit later on with the finance transformation and so on. But I know one of the things that I found really interesting about your background is the fact that you've been within EF or parts of the EF business now since 1999, so a very good period of time, and it's something that you tend to see less and less these days in people's profiles and careers. And I thought I'd just ask you what it is that's made that work, so to commit to stay in the business for that length of time. There's obviously got to be a good relationship between yourself and EF as a business, but what is it that's drawn you to stay rather than look outside, which is often the common thing that people do after 2, 3, 4 years, really?
I think I could say a lot of things. It's obviously I'm surrounded by great people at EF, and that really matters. I've had the pleasure to work with also some really good managers through my career, and that also really matters. One thing though that because I've had other people ask me that question. I remember especially one time I was actually interviewing a guy and he was asking me that very same question, and I felt compelled to not just give him a line, but actually really give him, like, from what I was feeling from my heart. And it's just never boring. I've had a lot of feelings working for EF, to be honest. I'm not going to express all of the feelings right now here, but I've never been bored. I've always felt like every day holds something new. There's always a little bit of something coming from left field that I wasn't expecting. I'm not going to sit here and say that every day has been like the dance on roses or running around in the lofty Alps and laughing all the time. No, it's been some tough times too. I've talked to so many people, especially when I'm interviewing people, that it's just like, why are you leaving your current employer? It's like I'm bored. I don't have I'm not challenged enough. And that I've always felt. I've always had the challenge, always felt that there's something that drives me, and that really makes it interesting to go to work every day. And that combined with some good people, good managers, that makes you want to stay, man. You don't want to leave.
No, that's it. It's and I think it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned a few times in the answer being surrounded by great people, great managers, and even in your first answer you gave about what made you smile. I mean, the meeting you've just come out of was people who knew what they were doing. They were competent. There's a trust and empathy element to it that's that obviously makes you smile, and knows you're doing the right thing. And I think that's such a big part of that. So the commitment to a business, but their commitment to you as well. And I think that's good. It's great. It's great to hear and see in this day and age where not many people tend to do what you're doing, really.
Yeah, no, it's been a heck of a ride, and hey, maybe 20 more years, who knows?
Yeah, that's it. And because I was going to ask you, obviously, in the position now of head of finance for the business, I mean, what does it feel like now to be in this position?
Again, I can just be brutally honest. We're about to go live with a new accounting system. Last time we did this was 20 years ago when I actually started working for EF. And right now it feels like I'm on a roller coaster, not going up and down, but that part of the roller coaster where you're like, slowly ascending, slowly getting towards the top, and people are like talking nervously around you, and you're kind of wondering, you're on the roller coaster, you want to be on the roller coaster, but at the same time you're kind of worried what's going to happen when I get to the top, and it just goes right down. And that's a little bit what it feels like right now. We're just getting closer and closer. We have 14 weeks to go until we launch the new accounting system, and it's fun, it's exhilarating, it's a little bit scary, but it's great to be the people that are with me on that roller coaster. There's some great people, and I think it will be bumpy. It will be some there'll be some ups and some downs, but I'm really looking forward to it. And it's so far been a heck of a ride, and it's going to be a few more bumps. So that's what it feels like. Roller coaster.
Yeah, because I mean, I know you mentioned the size of this project. I mean, it's 50,000 people it impacts across 100 countries. So a huge project, as you mentioned. But I know that also one of the things you're really proud of about your career is driving change, but in a positive way, and I think that's it's often quite hard to do, because I mean the majority of people are quite change resistant. So to put change in a positive way, especially on something of a scale as big as this, affecting this many people, this many countries, I mean it's a huge challenge, and I suppose anyone listening to this would think, well, this is amazing. I really would love to kind of replicate what Pehr has done. So I mean, what advice would you give to people trying to get to the point where you are? I mean, obviously, you're not going to do this kind of project after 2 or 3 years of experience, but if they want to ultimately be doing what you're doing now, what would be the advice you give for someone wanting to pursue a role in leadership in finance?
I think what I find is, and I think that's what made me smile when I talked to these guys this morning, is like the ability to simplify something. When we're working with finance, we're dealing with some tricky stuff, right? Like it could be taxation, it could be, a new accounting system, it could be accounting policies or auditors. Like there's complexity in the finance role. And what I think, you as a finance professional, you should try not to export that complexity. Like your job is to deal with the complexity so that the business can focus on other things. And I think, whether you're an accountant starting out or whether you're a finance director or a CFO, like doesn't matter what level you're on. I think your job is to sort of absorb that complexity and try to simplify it. It doesn't, something that's complex is going to be complex, right? I had a conversation the other day about, withholding taxes in India, and man, that is tricky. They don't make it easy for you there. And the trick is not, you can't, some complexity you can't change. Some things are going to be complex, whether you like it or not. But what you can do is try to, make it simple for the business, make it simple for the people. You can simplify the process. There are things you can do to even simplify the way it's explained to people. And sometimes you feel that there's resistance, especially from experts. It's like, no, I can't make this simpler. I can't. And I find that usually you can. But it takes effort. So my recommendation is just, learn. As a finance professional, we get paid to deal with the complexity, but also learn to simplify. Don't expect that when you're talking to the CEO, when you're talking to that line manager, whatever you're doing, that you need to export the complexity. You are paid to simplify, and I think that's my recommendation. It's not always easy. And some people who are listening to this that know me might say you have not always succeeded, and I know that. But you got to try.
I mean, where do you think your success in being able to do this comes from? Because your career has been in finance, so you often find that people who've had experience in other disciplines can be very good at this part of the job because they know what it's like to be sitting on the opposite side of the table where they don't know finance. But where do you think this ability for you to be able to do this comes from? Being able to make things well, I suppose making things simple is part of it, but actually the empathy and the listening to people and understanding people.
I think the short answer is I don't know, but I think there are a few things that I enjoy doing, and it's a little bit like singing in the shower. I don't know if I do it well necessarily, but I still enjoy doing it, and I really enjoy the teaching aspect. So I did not become a teacher. I had the opportunity to teach briefly at university, and that was a great experience. And I think that's wanting to teach is one thing that really I think is sometimes helpful in communication. You got to be careful. You don't want to lecture people, but wanting to bring people along and teach them something is I think was one thing that sort of stayed with me. And I also like to think that which doesn't necessarily come automatically with teaching, but I'd like to think that I listen. And I think for me, as a leader, I like to think that I'm listening. And again, some people that are working with me or for me may sort of say you don't always listen, and it's hard to listen because there's a lot of things that impedes with your ability to listen. You're on a deadline, that roller coaster. You're going up that hill, and you're just, it's getting 14 weeks to go. It might be hard sometimes to listen, but if you have the right people around you, you should listen. And it doesn't mean listening doesn't mean that you always agree. Listening doesn't mean that somebody else is making decisions for you. Listening just means you take in what the people around you have to say. And if you do that well, you're going to be smarter as a group because people around you are going to think about things you haven't thought about. And I think a combination of wanting to listen and at least wanting to teach is something I think has helped me. It's something that helped me along the way.
I mean, would you say they are then key traits and characteristics of your leadership style then? I suppose being a strong listener, wanting to teach and develop people, are they key strengths you would say you have as a finance leader?
Yeah, on a good day, at least. I would hope so. I've received that feedback as well, and on occasion. So hopefully, it's not just singing in the shower on your own. But yes, I feel those are important parts. I think what has served me well also is in my career, I have been given the opportunity to work in many different aspects of finance. I'm not I'm not an expert in any specific field. But I've had the opportunity to work with some thorny tax issues. I've worked with some restructuring. I've had the opportunity to run teams of accountants and teams of finance managers. I've been given the opportunity to get a broad knowledge. In Swedish, we have a word that is similar in French as well, which is generalist, which is sort of an all-arounder. I don't like the English term all-arounder. I like the French or Swedish word better, generalist. But it's somebody that has sort of, broad knowledge. You could say broad knowledge, but not very deep. But I find that is helpful, at least in the work that I'm doing now, because I can jump into different situations. I can talk about budgeting. I can talk about taxation. And if you listen, you don't have to be the expert, because there are other people around you that might know a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of think that the key to the success in the career and the key to the fact that you've had this great relationship with EF is linked to the fact that you're doing something you really enjoy at the heart of it?
Absolutely. I think there are a couple of things that really and it sort of influences that question you asked before, is like, why have you stayed around for so long in the same company? It's, first of all, I don't feel like I've been in the same company because it's changed a lot. But there's also, it's also been given a lot of opportunity. I've had managers that have believed in me, and if they didn't believe in me, they at least didn't make me think that. They gave me the impression that they believed in me, and that made me confident to do things that I maybe wouldn't be so confident doing otherwise, including taking this job. That ability to be challenged is I think is helps you develop. Being surrounded by people that believe in you, but also are willing to support you in that is very important.
No, and the reason that I ask it is that obviously on a daily basis we're talking to people about what they want to do in their careers, but also linked into that what they want to do with their lives. And I think a lot of people have these things they would like to do, and but I think what it ultimately comes down to, where you often find people that are successful, are they're doing something that they really enjoy, and then if you enjoy something, then the efforts you put into it multiplies, and it also sees you through the tough times. You mentioned not every day is the best day in a bit, and as it is with everybody. But I think if you're able to keep consistent and doing things you enjoy, and those things you enjoy lead towards the outcomes of your role, then actually you're in a good position, and it's probably why it's worked out so well for you at EF over all the years, I guess. So it's good. Yeah, it's quite interesting to hear you talk through it all, really. And I guess one of the things that we usually ask people about on the show is how they tend to structure their day, and how good they are at prioritizing things, because I know people who are more junior looking to get to your level, some of the things you're talking about now, they might think, well, this sounds great, but how can I fit this all into my day? How do I manage all these things, like doing this transformation, 50,000 people, 100 countries? That feels like the kind of job that could just consume your whole life. So are you someone who's very good at prioritizing, structuring the day, and just focusing on key things?
With the way you built that up, Paul, I wish I could just say, yes, absolutely. and here are the 5 things, or the 3 things, or the 2 things, whatever. I feel, again, I'm going to give you the straight up honest answer. And I think on a good day, I feel like, I'm rocking it. Like, things are moving along, and it's just, things are falling into place. On a bad day, I feel like I'm being blown by the wind, and it's communication is important in this type of project that I'm in, and I find myself in a position where I'm communicating with a lot of people a lot more than I even thought was possible, and I think so there's a lot of meetings. And I think that, might be different from, if somebody's starting out in their career, they have certain, somebody's got to pay those invoices, right? Like somebody's going to reconcile that bank account. It doesn't happen by itself, right? But in where I am right now, I find myself being in a lot of meetings, and I think the challenge for me at that point is to really, be structured in between. So it may be that I don't have to reconcile bank accounts anymore, but there's still, we all have sort of those, things that we just got to tick off, right? Like, and it's really being mindful of trying to get that time to do the work that just needs some of the things that you just need to tick the boxes on, being mindful of finding that time. And I really, really wish I could give you that sort of, or give the listeners out there any kind of, but it's just be nice to yourself. Don't, just recognize that you got a lot on your plate, and just allow yourself to find that time in between the meetings, or find the space that you need to prepare for the meetings, and also let people know what you need. I think that it's okay, to sort of say, hey, I need, for instance, the meeting that I was just in before this one, I said, listen, we got to cut it short now because I got to prepare for my next meeting. And it's not always you can say that. Depends on who you're talking to. But you learn to sort of create that space. And I don't know that there is a recipe for everybody. I think I think you have to allow yourself to get into the space, the mindset that you need for every task that you have. Yeah, I'm really not giving you a good answer, I know, but hey.
It's interesting to see, because people give a range of different answers to that. So as you would expect, everyone has a different way of dealing with their day, inside and outside of work. There's been a bit of a mix. Some people have a very similar approach to yourself, and then we have other people who are very structured with their timing and how they prioritize things. But it's always interesting to hear. And I suppose, as you mentioned yourself, it does come down to the to the individual, and as long as you're in a mentally good place and you're feeling good about yourself, then the other positive things will come off the back of that. And I suppose this is linked to a question I was going to ask you related to COVID, actually. I mean, obviously it was a tough time for everybody, but I suppose in terms of the kind of role that you have, where you are, I suppose I was in Sweden this week, and someone described their role as being an octopus, like reaching out to all different parts of the business, and trying to have so many contacts there. And I suppose in that way, you're a bit of an octopus at EMEA, where you're at EF, where you're reaching out to all these different people, so many contacts, which now, since COVID is probably, I guess, a bit easier. But during COVID, did you find that quite tough? And how did you get through that, really?
I think COVID was. I think it was tough, and it was, for me personally, it wasn't tough. So I was in a position where I felt very well supported by my company. I felt didn't feel threatened. It was obviously scary from other perspectives to sort of observe what was happening, and it was to some degree very scary to see what was happening to the business. EF as a company is built on people meeting. You travel and you learn the language where it's spoken. So travel and education go hand in hand. So when you can't travel anymore, that has an impact on the business. Without giving you any details, that's certainly true. So there was a lot of things going on. But personally, I was lucky to be, working from home wasn't an issue for me. I had a lot of colleagues where that was a problem. They had small children, or they, just lived alone in a small apartment, or, there were people that I could tell that there were people that were really struggling. And I think, talking to each other, and I think we all we all felt the need to just have that interaction, right? And I think we've all become accustomed to using the media that you and I are using right now, the video conference, right? Like to talk using Teams or Zoom or whatever that the tool is. I think that is something that was really helpful, because connecting with people was as important as ever, or even more important during COVID. And I think I've personally felt really supported, but I could see my colleagues that were maybe struggling more with either being alone or being in a stressful home environment where you're juggling your family life and obligations together with your work obligations. I think I'm very impressed with, and not only how EF got out of this, but also looking at other companies. I think there's a lot of examples of people just being very innovative and just coming up with new ways of doing things. And that the positive side of something that is obviously mostly is negative, but it's important to hold on to those positive aspects. There's creativity and innovation that comes out of something as trying as a pandemic.
No, I agree. I mean, I think when you see even the average office space now, it almost feels like you're going into a 4 or 5 star hotel. I mean, it's there's so many amazing things that companies are doing to attract and retain people, and it's most medium to larger size companies now have gyms, there's meditation rooms, yoga rooms, all these kind of things, like great restaurants and canteens on site just selling only healthy food, and there's there's a lot of I think positive things that come out of that 2-year periods. I mean, I think everyone's very pleased we are coming out of it now, but it's good to at least see there are some positive things that are going to impact our lives from the medium to longer term now off the back of that, really, as well. And I think what a lot of people did over that time is it gave them a lot of time to think about what their goals are, really, I suppose, in the career, but in life. And I suppose what is a question I was going to ask you, really. Obviously, fantastic career to date. I mean, any goals you have either in or outside of work that you maybe a vision board or maybe a bucket list, maybe anything that you want to tick off?
One thing that really tickles. So I've had the pleasure in the work in the job that I did before the role I have now. I had the pleasure to travel in South America, and I really liked working with my colleagues in all over South America. I should say Latin America, because it wasn't just South America, and it really made me want to learn Spanish. I work for a company that teaches languages and doing not just because of that, but I also really believe in language immersion. So I would really like to learn Spanish, but I have to figure out how, because I want to learn it through immersion, not just sort of studying. Studying is good too. Kids out there, you should study. That's good. But I think for a language especially, you need to combine the studies with immersion, and just be there. So I don't know. I have to figure out a way to work more with the Spanish speaking world. I think it would be. Don't ask me to speak Spanish now, because I didn't say I knew how to do it, but I would like to learn. And it would be fun. It's just I like the culture. I like the interaction, and it would be fun. So maybe a career opportunity that would allow me to do that would be interesting. Who knows?
I thought of an idea. Maybe you can start singing your songs in the shower in Spanish. That's the way a good easy way to learn Spanish. Doing something you're already doing.
Okay? You're gonna make you laugh now, because I don't sing in Spanish, but I do listen to music in Spanish, because again, I believe in immersion. So I don't know what they're singing about. I can pick out a few words. But if you're, that it goes for everybody. If you're interested in a language, you got to find the fun stuff. That's how you learn. And so I'm listening to music in Spanish and some reggaeton, and that's how I it's a way to start that immersion. But yeah, don't ask me to sing. I won't do that. I will do a lot for you, Paul, but I won't do that.
Don't worry, we'll save that for the follow-up podcast in a year's time. We'll interview you in Spanish. My colleague will come on and interview in Spanish, and we'll do some singing. That sounds like a good plan.
Give me an incentive to get going, to really grasp that dream. Yeah, that's true. That's good. Yeah.
Well, and I guess the last question I had, and is, I suppose it could be a bit linked into this. Really, it's any hidden talents you have, really, that well, at least that you've not shared with us so far. So we covered a bit of broken Spanish, singing in the shower. Any hidden talents that you've got there as well?
I don't really believe in the hidden talent. I think I like to express what I know. I will say, I talked about teaching before. That is something that I enjoy doing, that I feel I don't do enough of. And I don't see it as a hidden talent necessarily, but it is something that I feel I could probably do more of, if and just trying to figure out like in what format that would be. But maybe it doesn't qualify as a hidden talent, but I have so little talent, I just try to use whatever I have. It's like I don't hide anything. I really just need to put it all in.
Well, I like it. It's always so positive, and it's always great to speak to you, Pehr. I mean, I think as you say, the big talent you've got is always bringing a smile to my face as well. And I think if the team around you, the business, and the very great relationship you've got with them, and it's a good sign of that positivity coming through on a daily basis. So it's great to hear. And I know obviously we're recording this on the eve of midsummer, obviously being a Swedish national, even though you're in Switzerland. I guess you're out celebrating that over the weekend, though.
Absolutely. And maybe not today, it's actual Midsummer's Eve, but I've been outside of Sweden long enough that I can find other ways to do it. So that's definitely coming up. Paul, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you for inviting me here. You always bring a smile to my face as well. And today was no exception. I really like what you're doing here, and I think it's a great initiative. So thank you for doing this.
No problem at all. It's been awesome to have you on the show, Pehr. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. I'm sure you will, and we'll keep in touch.
All right. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.